The unlight the whispers of New Haven had always been Hannah's greatest fear, a constant hum of judgment that followed her like a shadow. It was a town where secrets were unheard of, where neighbors knew every cracked sidewalk and every untidy lawn. Hannah had grown up under the cold, watchful eye of her mother, a woman who believed a family's honor could be measured by the cleanliness of its windows and the perfection of its lawn. Her father, a kind but broken man, found his escape in the silence of alcohol, leaving Hannah to face the world and her mother's stern disappointment alone. When her pregnancy became impossible to hide, the whispers turned into a roar. The town's quiet judgment followed her everywhere, a heavy cloak of shame that made her wish she could simply vanish. She had held on to a small, fragile hope that a child would give her a sense of purpose, a love that she had never received. But the shame was a poison that seeped into her bones, eroding her resolve. The hospital was a stark, sterile place, humming with the cold light of fluorescent bulbs. The pain of labor was a physical manifestation of her shame, each wave a brutal reminder of her secret. When the nurses finally placed the two tiny bundles in the bassinet, a flicker of hope pierced through the pain. But then she saw their faces. Their skin was a deep, rich mahogany, beautiful and perfect in its innocence. And in that moment, for Hannah, a different kind of nightmare began. The whispers she had feared her whole life, the murmurs of a town that saw her as a disgrace, echoed in her mind, drowning out the cries of her own daughters. She could not bring herself to touch them. The shame felt like a curse, a permanent stain she couldn't wash away. One night, consumed by a fear that had swallowed all hope and reason, she made a choice that would haunt her forever. She moved like a ghost through the quiet hospital halls, the twin babies held close to her chest. She slipped out into the cold, pre-dawn air, clutching her daughters as if they were a burden she could no longer bear. She walked until she reached the outskirts of town, to an old industrial park where abandoned warehouses stood like silent specters. Behind one of them, she found a rusted dumpster. With a sob that tore through her, she placed her twin daughters inside and slammed the lid shut. She ran, her footsteps pounding a desperate rhythm against the wet pavement, the rain washing away the last traces of her daughters, but not the memory of their cries. She told herself she was free, but a voice inside her whispered that some stains could never be washed clean. A new beginning. Raymond's life was a testament to loss. After a drunk driver stole his wife and son, he became a ghost in his own city, a man who pushed a squeaking cart through the rain-slicked alleys of New Haven, searching for scraps to sell. He found solace in the quiet solitude of his grief, a constant companion that settled deep in his chest. On that rainy morning, as he lifted the lid of a rusted dumpster, he heard a sound that broke through his silence, a soft, desperate cry. Inside, wrapped in thin, damp blankets, lay two tiny babies. Their skin was a rich, beautiful brown, their faces scrunched in small, tearful cries. Raymond's heart, which he had believed to be a hardened, empty thing, clenched with a sharp, familiar pain. The memory of his own lost child, tears he hadn't shed in years, filled his eyes. He reached into the darkness, lifting the two small lives into his arms, feeling the fragile warmth of their bodies against his own. The world around him disappeared, leaving only the weight of these two fragile beings. He took them home to his broken-down shed at the edge of a scrapyard, a place he called home. He named them Amara and Effa, names that meant grace and love. He didn't know how to be a father again, but he learned. He fed them with milk mixed with water, begged for medicine when they fell ill, and went without food so they could have what little he could provide. He carried them close to his chest as he worked, singing soft lullabies as he searched for cans and wires. The shed, once a place of silent grief, began to fill with the sounds of life, with soft coos, and later, with the laughter of children who had found a home in the heart of a man who had lost everything. The world was not kind. Neighbors whispered, pointing at the crazy old man with the dark-skinned girls, but Raymond ignored them. He saw only the light in their eyes, the small hands that clung to his, their tiny fingers wrapped around his own. He was their protector, their provider, and their father. Amara and Effa grew with the quiet resilience that only comes from unconditional love. They learned to walk on the rough floor of the shed, their laughter echoing against the rusting metal walls. They followed him to the scrapyard, their bright eyes wide with curiosity. They learned to separate the metals, their small hands working alongside his, earning small coins that went into a jar they kept hidden under the floorboards, a secret treasure for a future they dreamed of. Rising from the rubble years past, the girls grew into young women, their dreams growing alongside them. Amra's hands became deft with a needle and thread, her fingers creating small accessories and beautiful garments from discarded scraps of fabric. Eva's drawings filled pages of old notebooks, her imagination creating blueprints for the beautiful, safe homes she wanted to build one day. They worked tirelessly, their goals aligned, to build a better life for themselves and for the man who had given them everything. They began selling their creations at a small mat in the marketplace. Customers were few at first, but with each sale, their confidence grew. Their hard work paid off when a kind older woman offered them a spot under her stall, shielding them from the sun and the rain. Orders began to come in, and the local teacher offered to help them set up a social media page, reaching a wider audience. They named their brand Grace and Light, a testament to the grace they had been given and the light they had found in each other. The whispers in New Haven began to change, morphing from scorn to admiration. People saw the quiet dignity in their work, the fierce determination in their eyes. They no longer saw the poverty of their circumstances, but the promise of their future. Raymond, now older and more tired, watched them with a quiet joy. His body was no longer able to keep up with the long days, but his heart was full. The girls took care of him now, sharing their victories, their dreams, and including him in every step of their journey. A shadow from the past. The day the past came back was a morning like any other. The market was buzzing with life, the air filled with the sounds of commerce. Amara and Effa were setting out their goods when a woman, frail and stooped, appeared at the edge of their stall. Her clothes were worn, and her eyes, filled with a mixture of fear and longing, scanned the market for work. Amara and Effa felt an immediate, inexplicable pull toward her. They saw the desperation in her eyes and offered her a job sweeping their stall. They gave her bread and coins, and watched as she accepted with a gratitude that felt more like a plea for forgiveness. Over the next few weeks, she became a regular presence, a quiet shadow who watched them with a strange, deep tenderness. They learned her name was Hannah. One day, an old market vendor, a woman who had lived in New Haven her entire life, spoke the words that would change everything. She told Amara and Effa the story of a young woman from years ago who had shamed her family, who had vanished after giving birth to twin girls with dark skin, leaving behind only whispers of a disgrace no one dared to speak of openly. That night, in the quiet of their shed, Amara and Effa asked Raymond if he knew. He sat in silence, the memories of that rainy morning flooding back. He told them the truth, a story of abandonment and of a chance encounter that had saved their lives. The truth was a wound, but it was also a light that illuminated the path they had walked, the strength they had found, and the profound, enduring love that had been given to them not by blood, but by choice. The choice of forgiveness. The following morning, Amara and Effa returned to the market with the weight of their past on their shoulders. Hannah was there, her eyes filled with a new kind of fear, the fear of being found out. Amara and Effa looked at her, truly saw her, not as the woman who had abandoned them, but as a person broken by a past she couldn't outrun. That evening, with Raymond sitting beside them, they invited Hannah to share their meal. The silence was thick, but it was Raymond who broke it, offering her a cup of tea. Hannah, with tears streaming down her face, finally spoke. She confessed the fear, the shame, and the brokenness that had driven her to abandon them. She told them of the years of regret and the emptiness she had carried, a punishment far greater than any the town could have inflicted. Amara and Effa listened, their hands held together. When Hannah was finished, Amara spoke. Her voice was steady, filled with the quiet confidence of a woman who had built her life with her own two hands. She told Hannah that they could not change the past, that the pain would always be a part of their story, but that it did not have to define them. She told her that they had chosen to live in the light, to build a future for themselves, and that if she was willing, they would choose to forgive her, too. Eva's voice joined her sister's, strong and sure. They explained that forgiveness wasn't for Hannah's sake, but for their own. It was a choice to let go of the anger, the questions, and the shadows that had followed them. It was a choice to be free. Hannah wept then, not from sorrow, but from the overwhelming grace of the forgiveness she had not dared to hope for. Raymond reached out and placed his hand on hers, his eyes filled with the quiet strength of a man who had seen the worst of the world and had chosen to believe in the best of it. In the days that followed, Hannah began to work with them, her hands learning the careful stitches Amara taught her. She became a quiet, welcome presence in their small family, a woman who had once been broken, finding her place in a life she had once thrown away. The shop they eventually opened near the market, Grace and Light, was more than a business. It was a testament to the power of love, resilience, and forgiveness. It was a place where a family, bound not by blood, but by a profound and difficult choice, built a life together, stitch by careful stitch, in the light they had created for themselves. The sign that hung above the door, shining brightly in the sun, was a promise that even the deepest darkness can give way to the most beautiful light.